I was watching a debate the other day. There was some dude talking about how he practiced Taoism. And he said that within Taoism, there's this real duality concept of right and wrong. Now, I'm not a practicer of Taoism, but I'm pretty familiar with it. And I knew that he was not really correct in what he was saying as far as the culture goes. And I found myself sitting there thinking, like, you're not really practicing Taoism. You just got a Taoism robe on, and you're like taking a little tourist trip through what you think Taoism is because you read about it. And when I see stuff like that, whether it's with that or my culture or anybody, like when I see people do things with people's culture that I know for a fact, this isn't, they're not doing the thing. I have to ask myself, why are they doing this? Because I think that's important to know. But then I do an analysis of cultural appropriation. Let's make it make sense.
I'm Lucky Day.
I'm Ned Niederlander.
I'm Dusty Bottoms. So together we're
the Three Amigos.
Let's go.
So I want to be really clear. Cultural appropriation is a term that's, I think, or a concept rather, that I think is misunderstood. There is a lot of it going on, but there's also, oddly enough, a lot of it that gets called out in cases where I don't think it is cultural appropriation. There are ways to identify it, and I'm just going to give you a high-level overview, but you can look stuff like this up to get a little more research in. But there are also ways to overuse it in ways that, believe it or not, can actually harm the communities that you think are being appropriated. So we're going to go over that. Cultural appropriation does not necessarily just mean that you're using practices from another culture. That's an oversimplification. There's more to it than that. There's impacts to cultural appropriation. The issue with cultural appropriation is not just borrowing. No. It's not learning about cultures. That's not cultural appropriation. Simply participating isn't it. It boils down to how it's done. It boils down to who benefits, and also what happens to the original group. What's the impact? One good way to remember it is with the acronym PEM, P.E.M. That's easy, right? P.E.M. And that stands for power, erasure, and mockery. So power, erasure, power, erasure, and mockery.
Why don't Jamaican men eat pum pum?
I don't know. Maybe you have to ask if I don't know, honestly.
Do you think that maybe... Oh. Sorry. Mm-hmm. Sorry, getting a call here. 1 sec.
Okay.
Hey, dirty girl. Me not done tell you don't call off my blood clot phone when me there work. Y'all go suck your mother pussy clot. And mind me don't give you 2 bucks in your bumbo clot face when me come home. Sure. Sorry about that. My wife.
No,
I always tell her, if I go and act like a roadside gal, then me I could treat you like a roadside gal, you know?
Seriously, I will teach him them languages.
Anywho, you were saying?
I don't know, I don't remember.
What I mean by that is you look for these things in very easy ways. Is there a power imbalance? Are you taking a culture from a group with less social status than you are? Are you of a higher racial class, economic class, culture class, whatever, and usurping somebody's culture? For example, traditional hairstyles worn by Black people are looked at as bad, power imbalance, when Black people wear it, but then white people come along and wear it and it's exotic. That's a power imbalance. Erasure. I'm gonna stay with the hair thing here. Erasure would be people saying, like, for example, a conversation about box braids and somebody saying, well, Vikings wore braids, as if the box braids that Black people wear were just stolen from Vikings. That's erasure. And then mockery would be wearing an Afro wig and putting on the face. You know what I'm saying? Check out my brother's podcast for more information on the face. Blackface in particular, but the face. I'll just call it the face. So P.E.M. So we're punching down, cashing in, or clowning. One of those three things. So cultural appropriation is extractive. It's exploitative. You're taking something that doesn't belong to you and taking value that isn't yours. It ignores context. The person who's doing it is going to benefit more than the group. And it's often tied to the power imbalance. As an alternative, cultural exchange is mutual. It's respectful. It's a potluck of culture. So you do a thing, I do a thing. It's context aware. So there isn't exploitation specifically. So some examples, like it could be clear appropriation. Ritualistic, sacred garb, headwear, that kind of thing. If you're not part of that, that's appropriation. Profiting off of a culture, selling things that are purported to be from that culture. I'm looking at you south of the border. That kind of thing. If you're not part of the culture, that's appropriation. Claiming an identity membership, like BQ. I'm not going to say what it is, but you can look it up. If you're not connected to that identity, claiming that membership into an identity, that's appropriation. Things that can be context dependent would be things like tattoos. Certain hairstyles might depend on the context, right? It's not super black and white. I would say the black and white, the box braids thing, that's pretty black and white. Like if you're white, you shouldn't be wearing box braids. But there are other styles that are cultural exchange styles where the context matters. So we wouldn't just call it cultural appropriation right off the rip. What isn't cultural appropriation would be eating food that's from another culture. Learning a language or a dialect and using it respectfully, not cultural appropriation. Participating in cultural events when you're invited, right? Or when you're included. Here's a hot button one. Some of you might get mad at this, actually. White people speaking in AAVE is not automatically cultural appropriation. If white people misuse or use a black scent, yes, that's cultural appropriation. If white people usurp terms from AAVE, that's cultural appropriation. But white people that engage in AAVE, this is an interesting one, right? White people can engage in AAVE in a way that makes me comfortable. So I'll be talking just in my regular, and a white person comes along and understands and uses the language correctly. And it reduces the burden on me to have to make a social switch, code switch. I don't have to anymore because here's a person who's understanding and engaging. Now, I don't want them to do like an airplane sketch, right?
Oh, stewardess, I speak jive.
Oh, good.
He said that he's in great pain and he wants to know if you can help him.
All right. Would you tell him to just relax and I'll be back as soon as I can with some medicine?
Just hang loose, blood. She's gonna catch up on the rebound on the med side.
What it is, Big Mama? My mama raised no dummies. I duck a rap.
Cut me some slack, Jack.
Say cutting cliche. We say be doing everything.
Chump don't wanna help, Chump don't get the help.
Say can't hang, say 7 Up.
Jive ass dude don't got no brains anyhow.
I don't want them to make it a caricature because that's mockery. If we're just talking, that's okay. Oftentimes online, you'll find people who are training you in some ancient practice. People who say they are part of a specific religion that you maybe only heard of in textbooks, or they are an academic that studied a certain thing and now they're teaching you the benefits of it. Most of the time, that's going to be appropriation. What you should do about it, it's up in the air. I would disengage, not let them, not give them any profit. If there's someone you trust that's part of that culture, you might give them a heads up and see what, take their lead. But that's something that happens, and I know it pisses me off when I see it, but you also don't want to expand the harm by standing in for that community, because if you're not part of it, you don't really know what the correct approach should be. Overall, what I mean is, when you're looking at these scenarios, if you apply the PEM approach, is it power, is it erasure, is it mockery, I think you'll be good. I was going to throw in a lightning round, but I think a lightning round is counterintuitive to what I want you guys to do. What I really want you to do is, when you see things like this, put it through the filter and think. Don't react. Don't be don't do a knee-jerk reaction. Just ask yourself, is this what it is? And then move on to the next thing. So, cultural exchange, that's sharing. Cultural appropriation is PEM. And if there's a version of a culture that's not yours, that you adopted, that just confirms all your beliefs and has you not have to engage, you didn't find a culture. You found branding. I hope that makes sense.